Back to my channel. So today I'm going to be recording the birth story of my second child, so my second born little one. So for reference, I have 3 children, all girls ages 16, 12 and 7 months old, and I really wanted to record all of their birth stories and go through everything. So I've already done a video for my oldest daughter Jessica, so that's available, and I have a playlist. So if you want to check them all out, then they're all going to be together in one handy place. So my second child was born in hospital again, and she was born 4 years after her older sister. So she was born in 2012, the 16th of May. And I just wanted to go through it because I really enjoyed doing the first video of this. I found it lovely. Sorry for that beeping sound. I've paused my dishwasher because it's really loud. But it's always on, so I thought I'm just going to pause it and make this video, otherwise it's not going to happen. So I really wanted to go through all the birth stories and have somewhere where I could look back on them. And I thought that if you are having your first child or more children, and if you have a large age gap, because there's actually 16 years between my youngest and my oldest, then this might be a useful video for you, because I remember being pregnant with Phoebe, who was my youngest, who is now 7 months, and looking for videos like this of people with larger age gaps. So I thought I would put all the videos together and make a playlist, and it's just really nice to look back on. So my second labour was actually quite different from my first. It was fast. My first was quite fast, my second was definitely faster. So I'm just going to go through it and start from the beginning. So it was about 2 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and obviously at this time I had a 4-year-old, because there's 4 years between the oldest and my second. And their grandfather was actually visiting at the time, and I remember we were drinking coffee and everything and talking, and I remember feeling a twinge. So obviously I'd already had a child, so I knew what it meant, do you know what I mean? But I have to say, with my second child, when the contractions started, they did feel very different. And I think if I hadn't had a child before, I wouldn't have realised what was going on. I would have probably thought that they were Braxton Hicks. But because I'd already had a child, I kind of knew that they were the real thing, if that makes sense. So they started out quite mild and just kind of niggly. Every now and then there'd be a little niggle. And because I knew it was going to happen, obviously I told then their grandfather to stick around, so my partner was in work. And yeah, it just kind of all went from there. So it was very niggly. It wasn't anything to worry about, you know what I mean? It was just the very beginning, and I thought, by the feelings of this is going to be a while. Then all of a sudden, it was literally no more than half hour later, they got a little bit more intense. So I decided to have a nice bath. And I got into the bath and everything, and I was just breathing through them. And they got a bit more intense, but they were nowhere like the contractions that I experienced with my first, when it got into more of the established labour then. So I thought I'm just going to relax in the bath and wait as long as I can before I go into the hospital and everything. And then as I was laying in the bath then, my waters went. So with my first pregnancy, when my waters went, they trickled. But this time they gushed, kind of what you hear about in the films, they literally gushed. But obviously I was in the bath, but I could literally feel them gushing. And obviously TMI, this is a birth story, so it's going to be, TMI. But I could actually literally feel them gushing out and everything. So then I just remember being through the contractions. But I did notice that there was meconium in the water, so if you guys know what that is, maybe it's your first pregnancy. I'm so sorry for that beeping sound. That is just my dishwasher, so apologies for that. But yeah, if you don't know what meconium is, it's just when the baby takes a poop inside you, basically. So I ran the hospital and let them know that my waters were gone and there was meconium, and they asked me to go straight in. So we made our way in and everything. Obviously I told my partner, come back. We went in, and when we got there, they said that because there was meconium in the waters and I wasn't ready to push or anything like that, then I'd have to be monitored continuously. So I had to go on to the high, so I had to go to the high risk labour ward, and they give me my own room and everything, but I had to be monitored continuously, which is where they have the bands around you. So originally I wanted a water birth for my second, but obviously I couldn't have that anymore because I had to have the band on constantly because there was meconium in the water, which means the baby pooed inside. And that was fine. So I remember being on the bed, being monitored, and even though I was on the bed and everything, I did still I was able to stand or kneel, so I wasn't stuck laying down, if that made sense. I found that really helpful. And yeah, I just remember I had gas in A with my second. I also had it with my first, but I found this time the gas in A when I was having my second child, it worked a lot better for me. When I had my first, it didn't work the same. I know it sounds strange. Obviously, it's still me, but each pregnancy, the stuff that I've used has affected me differently, which I didn't know could happen when I had my first, but it has happened to me. So let me know if you've had children, if you've used like gas in A with like all of your children or like 2 of your children or something. Let me know if you like found it like work differently for you, because I'd be really interested to know that, because it definitely did for me. Like with my first, I didn't like the gas in A, but I really liked pethidine, and with my second, I really liked the gas in A, but I didn't like the pethidine. So it was kind of the opposite. But yeah, I had gas in A at first, and then things started getting a lot more intense, and again it was quite quick as well. So from having my little twinges in the house and my water was growing to actually having a baby was only like 3 hours. So like the established side of labour was quite fast, and then with my second, even like the latent phase, like the build up to labour where you go from like 0 to like 4 centimetres, it was quicker than my first. But like in the afternoon, like I said, I got my first twinge, and then by the time I got to the hospital it was evening time, so say it was about 8 or 9 p.m. or something, and that for me was like, you know, the beginning stages. So when I got there, I was 4 to 5 centimetres, started gassing and everything. Obviously I was monitored continuously because she pooped, so which seems to happen, which actually the meconium poop thing has happened with all 3 of my children. I don't know why, because, you know, I've always had straightforward births, but they always seem to like poop. They're the poop and they're still there, you know, inside, and there's contractions, or they poop like on the way out. So I don't know what that is. Hopefully that's a lucky thing. I'm going to say that it's a lucky thing. So yeah, I was in hospital, I'd had my gas in A, and then as things progressed then I'd had pethidine, which I didn't like. And then it was quite fast, and obviously I'd had quite a bit of gas in here with her, and you know, pethidine and everything. So there are a few little gaps in my memory, but I remember the like matron ended up looking after me, which is basically just like the head midwife. I'm not exactly sure what the correct term is. I say matron, but I don't know if that's what they call it. Sister, is it the right term? You guys can let me know. But you can tell that, like in the UK, you can tell in the hospitals like who is the midwife in charge, because they have a dark blue uniform. So that's how I knew who it was. And she ended up being the one that was with me like as I was like about 7-8 centimetres up until the baby was born. And I remember my partner like joking with her. She did not have a sense of humour. And she was like scolding him and everything. Obviously he told me about this afterwards, which I found quite funny. So yeah, I would have asked him to join me for this video, but he does not like being on camera, which is fair enough. Which is a little bit sad, because obviously he was there for all 3 of the births, so it would have been nice to have his perspective and everything, but that's completely fine. But yeah, so I remember like the matron coming in, and I progressed and like started getting ready to push. And I remember like as soon as I felt the need to push, because like with my first child I actually gave birth on my back, and I do not recommend it at all. If you can, get into any other position if it's a possibility for you. So I don't recommend giving birth on your back. But with my second, I actually ended up having her, like delivering her and giving birth on all 4s. So I was like leaning like on my arms like over the back of the bed, and that was a really, really good position. I really liked that. And I found that it was a lot more like the feeling of pushing and like the control of pushing obviously was my second, so that could play into it too. But the actual feeling and it was completely different for me, and I just found it much not easy, because birth isn't easy, but controlled, and I felt more in control of that area. We'll leave it there. So yeah, I had her all on all 4s, and I actually asked my partner, I remember, to like take pictures of her like crowning and coming out, because with my first I didn't want to see it at all, and I knew I didn't want to see it while it was happening, but then I said, oh, I'll take photos and I'll have a look, you know, afterwards, which I'm not sure if it was a good idea or not. It was lovely to see her being born, but also seeing yourself. Yeah, I do have really lovely photos which I will insert of her as a newborn, and Jess coming to visit her and everything, and they're really sweet. So obviously if my partner's in any of them, he will be covered because he doesn't want his photo shown, which is completely fine. But yeah, and I remember her being born and everything, and obviously because I was on all 4s, she was like behind me. So then I remember like asking if she was okay, and then laying down and her being like tucked, because I had like a long nightie on, which actually belonged to my mother. So I remember wearing that to have her, and they like tucked her underneath it, and we had skin to skin and everything, which was lovely. So it was really positive. It was quite quick. I mean, my first 2 births were quite fast, like the established labour, which is from 4 centimetres or 10, was quite quick. And with Isabel, I only pushed, I think, for like 20 minutes, whereas with my first, it was well over an hour. I'd say at least an hour and a half. So yeah, but it was a lovely experience. It was really quick as well, so I don't have much of a story to tell, because that is pretty much it really. I didn't have any stitches with my second, which was really nice. And yeah, obviously then recovery was a lot easier. And then I remember, like, I stayed in, obviously, because there was meconium in the water. I did have to stay in and everything. And I remember, like, my partner bringing in my older daughter then, who was 4 at the time, to come and visit her little sister. And that was such a lovely moment. That was so lovely. So I got some really lovely memories of that. But yeah, Isabel's birth, so my second child's birth, was just a blur, to be honest. It was quicker. It was straightforward, apart from like the meconiums in the water. But I remember literally the waters, and there was so much waters with her birth, because every time I would have a contraction, it would just gush. It was crazy, like literally from the films. That's what the waters were like with my second. Whereas with my first, it was just strictly. So it's just crazy how different things can be, which is really why I wanted to make these videos. But yeah, I remember like looking down at her, and she was like, oh, she was just amazing. Obviously I'm going to say that, but yeah, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like having your little one and then first being born and looking at them, and yeah, it's just an amazing feeling, and it'll be worth everything. So if you are worried, if it's your first child and you're worried, then please don't worry, because once they're born and in your arms, there's nothing like it. I know everyone says it, it's very cliche, but it's so true, because there is literally nothing like holding your baby. And to see, like, further, when Jess came to see her sister, then obviously with my partner, when she held her little sister, that was just so sweet. So it's just such lovely memories. So I'll try and find some really nice lovely little photos and pop them into this video so you guys can see. But I don't have any actual recorded footage, because obviously she was born in 2012. So I don't have an actual, recording of it happening or anything like that. But I do have lovely photos. Quite a big difference. And like my first, obviously it was a lot longer. The pushing stage was a lot longer. In general, like the beginning stages of labour was a lot longer. Then with my second, it was very straightforward. And yeah, and even now actually Isabel's like no trouble. So it just goes to say, like, I remember like when I was pregnant, my most recent pregnancy, then when I was pregnant with my youngest, who was 7 months, so Phoebe, I remember talking to the midwife, and she said, which I think is really true, that even when you're pregnant with them, they almost have like a little personality of their own already. And like, so yeah, I just thought that was really nice, yeah. But anyways, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. I do have, like I said, a playlist where I'm going to put all the birth stories together. So if you want to look at them, you're expecting your first child or your next child, or you want to have an age gap, like I said, then you can watch them all and get the references. But yeah, my second birth was very straightforward, quite quick. And it was literally like, not textbook, but it was like a contraction twinge, had a nice bar, stayed at home as long as possible. Obviously then I had meconiums and my waters broke, and they broke, And then I went to hospital, had gas and air. Obviously I did get like continuously monitored because of the meconium in the water. And then I had some pethidine, which I didn't enjoy this time, which I was kind of gutted about, because the first time I just found it so helpful, but you can never guarantee anything, can you, with birth? They're all their own births, definitely. And yeah, and then I delivered her on all 4s and had snuggles, and it was amazing. So yeah, it was quite a quick delivery with Isabel, and yeah, it was very straightforward, but it's just lovely memories. But definitely my favourite memory is having like Jess come to the hospital and holding Isabel and just seeing them two together. Yeah, that was just amazing. So if you are expecting your second child, then congratulations, and I hope it goes so well. But to see the bond of siblings, like your children together, is just amazing. So if you are pregnant no matter what number baby you're on, I really do wish you all the best. I hope it goes really well for you and you get the birth that you want and everything works out just the way you want it to. So Jess and Isabel, so Jess is my oldest, so that's the previous birth story, and Isabel's obviously what we're talking about now. So they were both born in the same hospital. We have since relocated, and my third child was actually born in a midwifery led centre, like a birthing centre. So I'll probably also make like a video on the differences between both, because I have experienced both, and I just think that'll be an interesting video for people who are looking for that information, because I've experienced like a hospital birth and like a birthing centre birth, which are different, which I will go into in a different video because it kind of needs its own video. So I will make that too. And then next I will make the birth story from my most recent labour and delivery, which is my 7-month-old Phoebe, who was obviously born in 2024. So it's just crazy, and like the differences as well. Like Isabel, she was actually 5 days overdue, and back then they didn't like offer sweeps or any like, you know, interference really until you were a week over. Now, like I remember with Phoebe, I actually had a sweep offered to me like on her due date, which I was quite shocked at, because obviously by then it'd be like 12 years since I'd had a child. So but anyways, I really hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, Isabel was very straightforward, and you know, other than the fact that I had to be monitored continuously and there was meconium in the water, you know, she came out crying, you know, everything went really well. It was a really lovely experience. Although I remember like my partner being scolded by this head midwife because, you know, he just has that type of sense of humour. And let's just say he said a few things that she didn't like. But yeah, it's just a really fun thing to look back on. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments, and I will have my next birth up as soon as possible, where I'll be going through my most recent birth of Phoebe, who was born in 2024. So again, if you are pregnant, congratulations. I hope you get everything you wanted out of your birth, and I hope things go really, really well for you. But anyways, I hope to see you all on my next video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've watched to the end of the video, I really, really appreciate it. And as always, thank you so much for checking out my content. Have an amazing day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.